So picture this, you're losing weight. You feel like you've lost 1, 3, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, maybe even a little more than that, 15, 20 pounds. But then all of a sudden you hit a point where your progress kind of stalls and you're doing the same things. You might even be picking up your exercise a little bit. You're watching what you eat. You're eating the same amount of calories. You're doing all the right things, or at least it seems you're doing all the right things. But for some reason, you're stuck. Welcome to the infamous fat loss plateau. Now, we've all been there. I've been there. If you don't know who I am, I lost over 125 pounds when I was 19. I'm in my 40s now, so I've kept that off for over 20 years. And I remember hitting a couple of different plateaus. When you lose that much weight, you definitely come across a few different plateaus, not just one. But what is a fat loss plateau? I want to use this video to give you really the definition of what a fat loss plateau can be. There's only really two different options, right? When we hit that. And then I want to give you 5 things that you can do to help you kind of break free and continue to see progress. So this is going to be really helpful if you've hit a plateau or you're in a plateau now, just some different ways that you can kind of get through that. So let's first define what a plateau is. A fat loss plateau typically is happening for 2 reasons. It's obviously when you're losing weight and all of a sudden you're doing the same things, or at least you think you're doing the same things, but you're not losing weight. Your weight just kind of, the weight loss just stops. It stalls, right? You're losing maybe 1.5, 2 pounds every week, which is a really good kind of pace. And then all of a sudden you're doing the same things and you're not losing any weight. A couple things can be happening. Number 1, are you measuring your body fat percentage? Okay. If you're a newbie, then, and you're strength training. So this is if you're strength training and you're losing weight, which you should be, by all means, strength training while you lose weight. You want to hold on to muscle while you lose fat. If you're checking your body fat percentage, and if you're checking some other things like your waist circumference, then you might be in a situation where your body fat percentage is going down, so you're losing some fat. Your waist circumference, if you're checking it, might be going down, so you're losing fat. However, your scale weight might not be moving because as you lose fat, you might be building some muscle if you're strength training. So let's say you weigh 180 pounds and you're losing a little fat, but you're also building some muscle. Well, you're going to see the change in your body. You may not see it on the scale weight because if you're building muscle, muscle is going to weigh a little more than fat. And so you lost some fat, you gained some muscle, your weight's at about 180 and it kind of just sticks around there. You'll see that your clothes fits better, your waist circumference will go down, your body fat percentage will go down. When I work with clients, I always have them check their waist circumference and their body fat percentage every single week, take the average of the week just to see what's happening there, to see if you're really truly in a fat loss plateau or not. I'll tell you 90% of the time people are not in a fat loss plateau, but I'm going to give you reasons on why that happens and how you can figure out whether you're truly in a fat loss plateau or not. Now, one of the things that you can do, and this is the first point that I want to give you today, is you need to reevaluate your calorie intake. So a lot of times people are not in a fat loss plateau. They just started to eat a little more. There's calories that are sneaking in. It might be through dressings. It might be through condiments and through sauces and things like that. It might be through drinks, through alcohol, if you drink alcohol. You got to make sure that you're tracking every little thing in the same way that you were tracking it when you were losing weight, right? So if you're not losing weight, make sure to go and reevaluate your calories. That's number 1. I want you to go and check and make sure that you're doing the exact same thing, that nothing has changed. You have to treat this like an experiment, right? And you have to make sure that you check every single variable on its own. And so the first thing you want to do is check your waist circumference and your body fat percentage, see if maybe you're losing some fat and maybe you're gaining some muscle, and then that's why your scale weight isn't moving. If that's the case and it's still not that, and you want to find out what else is going on and you feel like you're still not losing weight, then reevaluate the calories. Make sure that you're eating what you think you're eating. A lot of times, 80 to 90% of the time, people are letting calories sneak in, whether it's, like I said, condiments, sauces, nuts, drinks, alcohol is a big one, things like that. So make sure that you reevaluate your calories and make sure that you're in a place where you're still in a deficit. Now, along with those lines, if you've lost a good 10 or 20 pounds, then there's something that's happening in your body where your body is actually requiring less energy. And so you might be in a situation where you're not really in a fat loss plateau. You just need to adjust your calories even lower because a 180-pound man is not going to require the same amount of energy as a 160-pound man. And so if you're 180 pounds and all of a sudden you've lost 20 pounds and you're at 160, you're gonna require less calories. And so if you're still eating the same amount of calories, you're not gonna be losing weight at the same amount, if at all. So if you have lost a good 10 or 20 pounds, then you need to recalculate what your deficit would be, right? So you have a new maintenance calorie set point, right? 180 is a lot different than 160. 200 pounds is different than 250 pounds. So if you have lost some weight, make sure that you recalculate what it takes your body to maintain your weight and then calculate your new deficit. I have a whole video that I'll link up top on how to calculate your weight loss calories and stuff like that, where it makes it really easy for you to do that. So you want to make sure that you track calories, make sure that you're tracking everything, or make sure that you're being mindful in whatever way you were tracking it before. It doesn't mean you have to weigh your food or anything, but whatever way you were weighing it or tracking it or using, hand gestures and things like that, or just kind of eyeballing it, make sure that you're eyeballing it as specifically as you were when you were losing weight. And then again, if you did lose some weight, then you might have to adjust your calories a little lower to continue to lose weight. Point number 2, one of the most important things when you are losing weight is staying hydrated. Now, it sounds stupid, I know, but water makes your entire body more efficient. So at the cellular level, your cells function more efficiently and better when you have enough water, when they're hydrated. And so if you're dehydrated, if you're not drinking enough water, that does a couple of things. Number 1, you might get headaches. You might not feel that great. You might feel lousy. But number 2, it could affect other things like sleep, which we're going to get into in a second. And then the other thing is you might get hungrier. So you might end up having extra calories because you're really not hungry, you're just kind of thirsty, but a lot of times our brain doesn't know the difference. And so you might be going and reaching for snacks and reaching for food when in reality, you're just thirsty. A trick that I tell my clients to use is if you feel like you're reaching for a snack and you're hungry, have a big glass of water and then wait 10 or 15 minutes. Chances are you won't be hungry anymore and you won't need that snack. If you do feel hunger still, then that was true hunger and you can go ahead and have your snack and that's fine. But definitely make sure that you're staying hydrated. I recommend taking your body weight. So if you're an 180 pound man, have half of your body weight in ounces. So that would be half of 180 is 90. Have at least 90 ounces of water every single day. If you're outside and you're sweating and you're doing a lot of high intensity exercise, or you're for whatever reason, you're just sweating a lot, then you want to make sure that you have a little bit extra water and then also maybe even some electrolytes because you're going to lose salt, potassium, chloride, things like that, magnesium. So you want to make sure that you not only replenish with water, but also with electrolytes. If you want some good electrolytes, I have a link at the bottom of my description where you can get a really cool discount on Thorne products, which I highly recommend. I use all of my supplements I get from Thorne. You don't need supplements, but if you are going to get them, get the ones that are third-party tested that are really, really good quality, and you can get a 25 or 20% discount plus free shipping just for signing up with my link below. Number three goes back to really my first point, which is watching calories. So number 3 is watch your portion sizes. You might start off by weighing. So I've done this before where I've weighed my white rice, or I've weighed, how much ham I put in a sandwich, for example. But then I don't like to weigh it every day. So all of a sudden I get away from that. I put the scale away and then I just make a regular sandwich. Well, what happens is after a week or two, I start to add more ham, or I start to add a little more rice, and I start to forget what the portion size is. And so I might be eating a little bit more, or I might be eating a little more ham or a little bit more rice and not even know it. And so I'm getting extra calories in through bigger portion sizes without even realizing it. So make sure that you have a way to normalize your portion sizes. It could be weighing it, and you can get a really, really cheap kitchen scale on Amazon for very cheap. Or if you have like a little cup, or if you want to measure it with your hand, and typically if you're doing rice, the cup of your hand is 1 serving of carbs. So make sure that you kind of have a way of measuring, have a way of being aware of your portion sizes so that you can continue to normalize and make sure that you're not going a little overboard here and there on portion sizes. Because again, if you're going over on portion sizes, then you're going over on calories. And if you're going over on calories, then you're not really in a fat loss plateau. You're just eating a little extra and you just don't realize it. So that's why your weight's not continuing to go down. Number 4 is huge. Please pay attention to this. Again, you're gonna hear me say this and you're gonna roll your eyes and you're gonna say, oh, that's really not that important. Get enough sleep. I cannot stress to you how important getting enough sleep is for fat loss. They've done studies to show this. People who sleep less than their average, so people who sleep 7 to 8 hours versus people who sleep under 5 hours, a night, like the differences are astronomical, huge differences. You're gonna be hungrier if you don't sleep well. You're gonna have cravings for the wrong types of food, fatty foods and salty foods and high carb foods, processed foods. I've experienced this myself, and I have a ton of clients that have experienced this as well. When you don't sleep well, you're hungrier, your thinking is off, your mood can fluctuate up and down, which can affect the decisions that you make with food. So please get enough sleep, get good quality sleep. If you want to know what kind of sleep you have, I use an Oura Ring. These things are great. You can use a Whoop band if you don't like the ring, but you want to wear a band. You can just use an Apple Watch, which will track your sleep as well. It's not as specific, but you don't need to be super specific with these things. Just make sure you're getting enough sleep, because sleep is going to fuel fat loss. I have so much information that I can provide to you. If you want the information for free, just leave a comment saying, hey, I have a sleep guide. I can send it to you. Just, sign up for my mindset, mindset.eddieroselle.com down below, and I'll send you a nutrition guide. And then I can also, send you a sleep guide that I have. Sleep is just incredibly helpful for fat loss. It makes it so much easier when you sleep well, and when you have good quality sleep and enough sleep consistently, you're going to make losing fat so much easier in the long term. So please make sure that you focus on sleep, and make sure you get really good quality sleep and enough sleep on a daily basis. The last point is number 5, which is managing stress. So when you're in a calorie deficit, that's already a stress to the body. If you have stress from work, if you have stress from family, if you have stress from any other outside commitments going on in your life, you're gonna feel it, and your body is gonna feel it. And when we have stress, we elevate a hormone called cortisol. It's our stress hormone, right? And that hormone makes it easier for your body to hold on to a little more fat, because think about back in the Paleolithic age, or whatever you want to call it, where we were cavemen and we were running around and we could get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger or whatever. That cortisol, that stress response, is there for a reason, right? It helps to protect yourself. But we live in the modern world right now, so we're not going to have to fight a saber-toothed tiger for the most part. However, we have work stress, we have family stress, we have anything going on outside of your body, outside in your environment that's stressing you out. And if you let that impact you, then you're gonna make worse decisions, you're gonna be hungrier, and you're probably gonna kind of stall your fat loss, because that stress hormone is not gonna let you lose as much fat as efficiently as possible by having that elevated cortisol level. So make sure that you get enough sleep, and then get enough kind of stress management stuff. So whether it's meditation, whether it's yoga, I like meditation. It's a game changer for me. I remember back in 2015, I went through a really stressful time. My hormones were really out of whack, and my vitamins, I was deficient in a bunch of different stuff. Vitamin D, vitamin D3, zinc, magnesium, iodine. I was deficient in a bunch of stuff. And I remember that as soon as I started meditating and supplementing with a couple of these simple things, all of a sudden I started to feel better. And then I had the energy to do the stuff like working out and eating right and making good decisions. But if you have stress take over your life, it's going to be an uphill battle. Just like if you don't sleep well, just like if you have extra calories, all of these little things kind of work together. And so those are the 5 points that I wanted to give you. A lot of times you're not in a fat loss plateau, you just think you are. And so this is kind of like a checklist that you can go through to make sure that you're not or are in a fat loss plateau. If none of these are the case and you've checked all of these off, and so if you say, hey, my waist isn't going down and my body fat percentage is not going down and I'm still not losing weight on the scale. If you say I'm sleeping good, I'm eating the exact same amount of calories, and all these things check off, I don't really have extra levels of stress, I'm staying hydrated, you're checking off all of these boxes, then the other thing that can happen is you want to get a blood test done, because at that point you want to see if there's any hormonal stuff that's going on, whether it's an underactive thyroid gland or any kind of hormones that may be off. So I would suggest getting some kind of a blood test. If you want any suggestions on that, just leave a comment, and I have a couple of places that I can send you to that I don't get any commission off of, but that are really good. One of them I've tried myself, so I can definitely recommend places where you can get good blood work, and you can have a doctor that'll actually kind of interpret it for you and help you with that stuff. But if for most people, that's not going to be the case. For most people, you're not in a fat loss plateau. You just need to adjust your calories, or you just need to make sure that you're tracking accurately so that you're not going over with the dips and the sauces and the condiments and the alcohol and the drinks and stuff like that. Or you need to manage stress and you need to manage sleep and getting enough sleep so that you're not overeating. So there it is, 5 reasons, 5 ways to kind of maneuver yourself through or out of a fat loss plateau if you really are in one or you think you're in one. If this was helpful, please subscribe to my newsletter. I send that out every Saturday morning. I give a bunch of tips on mindset, fat loss, and everything else health related from my journey of losing over 125 pounds and keeping it off for over 20 years. So I know a thing or two about it. I've done it for a long time. I work with entrepreneurs, executives, all types of, moms, dads, all types of people to help them get to their goal as efficiently and quickly as possible. If you want any more information on that, just go to my website at eddieroselle.com. I'll link it in the link in the description below, as well as if you want to go and get my newsletter, it's absolutely free. And as a bonus, I'll throw in my free nutrition guide, which is 28 pages of what I work on my clients in terms of nutrition, what I recommend, a lot of myths that I bust, a lot of things that just aren't true, and kind of clearing through the noise in the industry about what's good and what's not for nutrition. It's absolutely free. Just go to mindset.eddieroselle.com. The link is also in the subscription or in the description below. And there it is. If you enjoyed this, please like, please subscribe, and share it with someone who you think needs to hear this information. And I will see you next week. Videos every Friday.